Is your audio sound? Installment number 8. New dog, old tricks. This is a podcast for people doing audio in church. The ideas are relevant in all live sound applications, but the words and examples I use are mostly from the church context. I avoid using technical jargon and use everyday words in an attempt to make what seems complex a little easier to understand. I have a little saying that neatness is next to godliness. It's always worth keeping the stage tidy from the beginning of the setup. It is so much easier than going back once everybody is there and trying to tidy up all those cables on the ground. It's a mess, it's a trip hazard, and for people who see the world like I do, it's a distraction. Another really important consideration with microphones is they are not magic. They can actually only pick up the sound that arrives at the place that they pick up sound. Pretty obvious. A challenge for you is to stand next to Samantha while she is singing, with a drum kit smashing happily a few meters away, and tell me whether you can hear Samantha or the snare drum. Because if all you can hear is the snare drum, surprisingly that's all your microphone is going to hear as well. And when you turn up Samantha's vocal microphone, you're actually turning up snare drum. So much of what we do is about physical isolation, about physically knowing what's going on in a space. Somehow we want that snare drum to stop being louder than Samantha at the mesh ball of her microphone. A little tip when running your microphone cables: start at the mixer or the stage box end, depending on your setup. Run the cable neatly out to the microphone position, avoiding pathways or creating trip hazards, and leave any excess cable at the base of the mic stand. This has 3 primary advantages. The first is that when the musicians arrive, they are going to want to move that mic stand you have just set up, and the spare coil of cable is now at the base of the stand, ready to move. The second is just that having a big pile of cables next to your mixer, rack, or stage box is just yuck and makes it difficult to problem solve or trace cables. The third, and possibly the most significant advantage, is that if you use this technique, at the end of your gig or service, you can simply unplug everything from your mixer or your stage box, and every person in the band can pick up a microphone cable at the microphone end and roll it up. Because of the way you set up, each cable will just pull neatly away from the mixer or stage box, and there won't be any messed up or tangled cables. You also won't have 2 people trying to roll the same cable from opposite end. Oops, I almost forgot to include this one. Rolling a cable. Never, ever, 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 ever roll an audio cable around your elbow and hand like a rope. Your cables are delicate and important. I'm sure you can find something on the interwebs to show you how to roll a cable. A rolled cable will be a bunch of concurrent coils of approximately the same size that looks neat and tidy. There are no figure 8s through the middle and no messy bits hanging out the side. This looks after your cables and also means that they will roll out more easily the next time. Doing the good old rope hank method twists and damages your cable and puts kinks in them and things like that that you will never get rid of. So to roll a cable, simply lay the coil into one hand and use your fingers to twist the cable as you pull it in to get it to sit nicely. Roll the cable back and forth. If the cable has been abused, this is a reference to the rope rolling comment, you may never get the cable to sit nicely. However, you might like to try putting kinky cables out in the sun for a few hours and see if they roll up better once softened from the warmth. It is good to have Velcro cable wraps or something similar, so the cable you roll now will still be rolled next Sunday when you pick it up out of the case. It's also good practice to store the Velcro cable wraps at the male end of the cable, so they're at the stage box or the mixer, so you don't have this big flappy yellow Velcro tag hanging out at the microphone. Looks bad on camera. It is good when someone offers to help you pack up that you say, "Do you know how to roll cables?" before letting them loose on your beautiful coils. Another conversation that's worth having with the team is how to communicate during church. A good idea is hand signals, such that when your congregation is in and a band member needs something to change, maybe they need to be able to hear something better, then a hand signal might be an appropriate way to get the message to the sound team. So, for example, 4 fingers stretched horizontally means bass. Guitar is 5 fingers plus thumb. Twiddling my fingers in the air as if I'm playing a keyboard would mean keyboard. Tapping an air drum, well, you get the idea. If I want the voice louder of the person standing next to me, I will actually point at their mouth. Then once I've indicated any of those instruments or sources, I would then point up or down. It's good to have a conversation around these things. You can come up with your own hand signals, but it's worth a think about how you're going to communicate during church. It's also good as a sound person to acknowledge what a musician has asked for and let them know that you've done it. Another thing to think about is very intentional language. When you talk to your team and when they talk to you, encourage them to think about what they are actually asking. Quite often a musician will say, "Can I please have more of me in the foldbacks?" Let's assume the person is a guitarist who is singing. What we actually would like them to say is something more along the lines of, "Could I please have more of my vocal in my foldback?" This is a very distinct and a very clear, understandable request. Can I please have more of my guitar in my foldback? Can I please have more of John's vocal in my foldback? Can I please have more of the keyboards in my foldback? All of these kinds of statements are much easier for you to interpret. Often you'll need to decide what it means. Again, the result may be that something else needs to be turned down, but the conciseness of the request is often helpful. Lastly on this, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" subject, if someone on stage tells you to turn them up in front of house, you get to politely ignore them. No one on stage has any real idea about how things sound in the congregational space. This is also where we remind them that we, the sound team, are a trusted member of the team, and they need to trust us. And possibly my most important tip: if you wear black t-shirts and you dry them on the line after washing, they will stay black a lot longer if you turn them inside out when drying them on the washing line in the sun. No one likes a greyish black t-shirt. So there we are. The New Dogs Old Tricks installation is complete. In other 10-minute installments, we talked about why some feedback is slow and some is almost instant. Where's the best place to put a mic near a flute? And what sounds awesome in row 10? If you haven't listened to installment 1, please do, as it's the starting point to launch from. All the others are optional, but in a suggested order. Many of the ideas do overlap and should help you on your journey. If you've listened in my suggested order, then you're now at the end of the original 8 installment set of Is Your Audio Sound? I hope you found this resource helpful and that you've passed it on to others in your sound, music, and staff teams. And yes, all of the installment names are all song titles. I don't know the content of the songs, I just like the names. But until that day comes, I will go and warn the darkness that the light of Jesus Christ has overcome.